Hey, it's another Sunday, beautiful Sunday, wherever you're at. Maybe it's some cold weather, maybe in some warm weather. But ironically, we're here to talk about some very extreme cold weather. I'm Denzel Snipes. You can catch me at Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch, also on Sideline Sports Network. My Facebook is Denzel Snipes, and also on Denzel Snipes 13 on YouTube. And I'm here with my tag team partner, and that is Scott, the Motor City Mad Mouth himself. Also, the pilot of the South Florida Tribune, and also over the Pundit Show, as well as a plethora of others. Fire Up Michigan, Fire Up Iowa, Beyond the Pigskin, you name it, it's all there. So he's also got his book out, which I'm sure he will give mention to during this recording as well. But hey, how you doing, Scott?
Doing great. Always nice to come on with you, Denzel, for crying out loud. We'll do another professor and the people in the not so distant future. But yeah, my book is called Lessons from the Microphone and tuning in tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. Pretty much summary, it's old school media versus new school media. Really had a lot of fun putting it together. There will be a part two when I do that. And also, my Twitter information is at Tribune South, and please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel where you'll see this as well as all the other shows that we have on as well. Always good to do something with you guys. Sideline Sports is the best edition that the South Florida Tribune ever had. And when I meet the quality of people that I work with who are like brothers to me, it doesn't get any more fun than that. So, yeah, I always enjoy doing these things on short notice, long notice. It doesn't matter. It's all fun for us.
Hey, absolutely. So you all get on out there and order your copy of the book, and stay tuned to more material on both the Sideline Sports Network and the South Florida Tribune. So,
Yes, and it's also available on Amazon and Kindle. So look up Lessons for the Microphone on Amazon and Kindle, and you can find it on both of those as well. So glad to have it out there. I worked hard, and I'm looking forward this year to moving it so I can get ready for my next book coming up. Who knows? But I want to make sure this one gets out to as many people first before I work on the next version of it.
yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. So, Wild Card Weekend has started, and I wanted to bring attention to one thing, and that is, in earlier in the week, they actually had thought about moving the Dolphins Chiefs game because the wind chill for last night's game, and this already was projected, was at a minus 30 degrees. It was a real world temperature of -4. They thought about moving the game because of the conditions, but they went on and had the game anyway. Yet they moved Dolphins Bills. Now, Dolphins Bills currently in Orchard Park, Buffalo metropolitan area, they're going through an extreme blizzard. But they wasted no time in moving that game to Monday. That
Right.
game will now be played Monday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So now we've got a doubleheader for Wild Card Weekend
Right.
tomorrow. So just wanted to get your thoughts on why did they move one game but not the other?
Well, it's easy. Snow. You didn't have that much snow in Kansas City,
No.
but the Dolphins played to their character. Okay, this set of fish ended up sinking very quickly because let's face the reality. Tyreek Hill had the only score for Miami, but a lot of that's the Dolphins' own fault too because they lost three of their last five games. All they had to do was beat Buffalo, and then they would have had the game in South Florida, but they didn't. So the Miami Dolphins, to me, self-destructed in any way that they can, but they're just being themselves. They struggle in the month of December and January, and as a result, they're home for the spring and the winter. So to me, I think that's the Dolphins' fault. The only time they ever move games is not because of the cold weather. I mean, it's mainly because of snow. So yeah, the Steelers and the Bills, two teams that are used to playing in cold weather is one thing, but you can't play in a lot of snow, and you also can't endanger your citizens as well. If you have to move it a day or two, so be it. Remember one thing: during COVID-19, cancellations were the name of the game. So the NFL got used to canceling games right and left for different reasons. So they're down; they can handle the cancellation thing. I even heard that they might consider moving it to Tuesday if things get uglier. That's what I've heard. Now I don't know if it'll happen, but if that's what they have to do to protect the local area, so be it.
That's true.
But the Dolphins are that's their own fault. I don't have any sympathy for the Miami Dolphins. Patrick Mahomes clearly outclassed Tua Tagovailoa, and if all Miami had to do was take care of business last week, and they didn't. So you had the 3-6 in Missouri. And what do they say that Missouri is a show me state, right? Well, I believe, right? So the Kansas City Chiefs showed Miami that we're the show me state and we're going to show you the way back home to South Florida. We get to play another week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I bring up the conditions now. Granted, yes, the easy answer would be, a ton of lake effect snow going on up there, and
Right,
of course, no visibility. The whole thing, like, because when it snows hard and fast up there.
right,
But as far as in Kansas City, and there's a such thing as literally like bone chilling cold, right? To where it can literally like weaken your bones and everything. And I've served with guys who were stationed in northern tier bases where it gets like that on a consistent basis.
right,
Um, so now it comes into mind, not just, oh, well, I'm cold, need a jacket, but at what point, is it player safety? And then we talk all the time about player safety, when it comes to hits and not playing when it's lightning outside. And I know
right.
you come from a time where they played when it was lightning outside,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. But with that being said, at what point does it come down to player safety, meaning it is too cold to play?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't because they've been doing it a long way to begin with. If they wanted to move the game, they could have moved it to a dome stadium, but then you take away the home field that one team particularly earned.
Earned.
To me, I grew up watching games at Tiger Stadium and went to a few and in downtown Detroit. So everybody that is my age that shows this old thing called a gray beard ended up watching games in multi-purpose stadiums. Now, obviously, I love my seat at the Silverdome, the Pontiac Silverdome, but cold is cold. I mean, the only thing what did you really notice from the cold yesterday? A cracked helmet from Patrick Mahomes, pretty much.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time we saw one of those. He had to change his helmet, but so what? I mean, cold is one thing, but the Kansas City Chiefs did everything they could to provide the Miami Dolphins anything they needed, where they could stay warm on the sidelines and all that. So they did everything they could to try to make it as comfortable for the Dolphins. But in the end, what ends up happening when you have these type of games that are cold is you depend more on the running attack is what you have to do. And
Mhm.
I think the field people at Arrowhead Stadium, I've been there one time. It's a cool place. It's really loud. Even when I went back there many moons ago, is to me, they provided the Dolphins everything. The only thing the Dolphins didn't provide was, they couldn't handle the cold weather. Their blood's all thinned out, but that's no excuse. The Miami Dolphins just simply laid an egg. Period.
Yeah.
Not only this week, but the week before. Everything's
Yep.
all self-inflicted. I know I keep talking about it, Dense, all day long, but the reality is cold weather will always be a part of it. And remember another thing: when the Buffalo Bills build their new stadium, they're not building a dome stadium; they're building another outdoor stadium.
Yes, they are.
So that other teams like to use the outdoor stadium as a way to become where it becomes an advantage. They
Yeah.
really do. And I don't. I mean, domes are all well and good. The only thing, if you get a dome, it gets you a Super Bowl. If you're not worried about getting a Super Bowl, then don't build a dome and keep the cost a little bit more efficient. And you do what you have to do. So
Yeah. I mean, this
they're not
came.
going to move it because of cold. There's no way.
Yeah, and one thing, and I'm pretty sure you remember this time period too, because this actually ranked, I think they said, in the top five coldest games ever.
Right.
And one of the coldest games in the Freezer Bowl, the 1981 AFC Championship game, the Cincinnati Bengals hosted, guess what? Another warm weather team in San Diego.
Right. Remember it well. Yeah, that was the game I think that Dan Fouts was in, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Fouts
Yeah,
played that
right.
game.
And not only that, a couple of years ago, the Minnesota Vikings held one over at the University of Minnesota in a very cold game. And I think that Bud Grant walked out. I don't know if it was without a shirt or with one, with a short sleeve shirt. He didn't care. Doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
now of course now the Vikings have an enclosed stadium, but for a couple of years they had played at the University of Minnesota, and they had to upgrade that stadium just to make it worth NFL standards. And the ones that made out better were the Gophers because they got the upgraded stadium without having to pay
Well,
any money out of their pocket. But yeah, that
exactly.
was a game where you had Dan Fouts there, and it was cold. And
Yep.
Cincinnati took advantage of it. We know the rest is history.
Yep, it's a psychological advantage, but it also doesn't mean that the southern or western team can't win. I remember I think it was a wild card game 2002 where the not Vikings, I'm sorry, the Falcons traveled to snowy Lambeau and Michael Vick outclassed the Packers. And this was a playoff game.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, it's about who is the better team. Kansas City outclassed a slumping Miami Dolphins. It is what it
Yeah.
is.
It all comes down to who plays better on that given day. Everybody had every reason why Atlanta should lose the game, but I guess Michael Vick wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid, was he? All I had to do was play better than uh, than the Packers, and he did. And as a result, the Packers won at
Yeah.
Lambeau. Well, then again, lately, how many teams have gone out there and won at Lambeau? Lambeau isn't what you call the sure-sided loss anymore. I mean, the Packers under Rodgers and Favre have lost games at Lambeau, so they've proven to be a little bit more vulnerable.
Yeah. I mean, look at what was it last? No, not last year, the year before last, divisional round when the 49ers, a West Coast team, went to Lambeau and beat them in a
Right,
game that only featured the 49ers only touchdown was off of a block punt.
right.
And then they won off of a walk-off Robbie Gold field goal. And yes, it snowed that day. So I mean, yes, it can happen. We got recent history for as proof.
Well, I'll give you some real history if you really want it. I remember years ago when I was watching the Miami Dolphins lose the New England Patriots in the snowplow game. This was an unbelievable move. I think Ron Meyer was the coach for the Patriots, and he had a guy out there that was in jail that was kind of working a community service. And I'll never forget, I talked to Ron Meyer about it over, I believe it was Super Bowl 33 about it. He laughed at the whole thing. How you had a guy go out there and snowplow a path, and then they ended up winning 3-0. And Don Shula was so livid. It really was. But Ron Meyer was, outsmarted them all. You know, and Shula to this day in his grave, I still can't believe that. But
Yeah.
Ron Meyer outsmarted Shula in New England. It was unbelievable. So yeah, snow impacts a lot of things, but that's why those cold weather games, I don't have to worry about it. Either I sit in a press box or I don't go. So I could care less how bad it snows. But sorry, fans, my occupation allows me to have a little bit more 72-degree weather than what's on there. However, that doesn't mean I haven't been on the field going before the locker room, because one of the coldest games I ever attended was out in Soldier Field when the Lions played there. I remember having to wear 3 pairs of socks along with hiking boots. And let me tell you, if you've ever been to a game at Soldier Field right off Lake Michigan, it gets real cold. And it's not just the cold, the wind bites you in there. And when it hits you in the face, you become Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but you become Rudolph the Red-Nosed and Face Reindeer because it gets you really good. So,
Yeah, yeah, and also, speaking of warm weather teams beating cold weather teams, or potentially in this example, many moons ago, if a certain play in a playoff game was ruled a fumble like it should have been, a warm weather team beats a cold weather team in the snow, and a dynasty is probably averted. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Everybody knows about that situation on Thanksgiving in Dallas, right? When the Cowboys went out there and I believe the Dolphins beat the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. I
That
believe.
was it. I watched that game live.
Oh,
Yeah,
come on. You think you're going to get one past me, Snipes? When do you think you're ever going to do it? I love the fact that you're trying to do it, but I knew what you're talking about.
I do it.
Yeah, well, that's okay. But regardless, again, we're talking about weather. I mean, they play in rain. Baseball cancels games because of rain, and lightning and all that. But it's just the way football's always meant to be played in the elements. But nowadays, there's so much more at stake here that they, again, if they're not worried about holding a Super Bowl, then to me it isn't a big deal. But weather's always been a part of football many, many years ago. Now it's obviously become a much different situation.
I mean, if you look at and we got one more minute here, but
Sure.
you look at the situation. You said that they were actually thinking about moving the game to Tuesday. There are certain parameters they have to take in mind. Like, for example, the winner. Let's say, for example, they move it to Tuesday, right? The winner of that game would have a short turnaround because they've got a divisional round game that weekend. And so I think they didn't want to get into the habit of too many rescheduled games, because at what point does it become a disadvantage?
Well, but you're talking snow, though. If they have to, then again, I'll allude back to my comments on COVID-19, and that meaning that they rescheduled everything on the planet if they had to. If they had to move it a day or so, well, so be it. Let that be the least of their problems. But again, we're talking snow, talking about the fans and everybody on the planet, because you really need the police officers out there to help the local citizens out when they need them. You can't worry about bringing people to a game. So let's hope it does go tomorrow. Martin Luther King Day, a doubleheader would be great. Oh, you have two, two, and two. But again, we have to focus on the safety first of everybody involved before we worry about canceling games and
True.
rescheduling them. I think that's the one thing that we can't lose sight of. But I'd like to see a doubleheader on Martin Luther King Day. It's been great, two, two, and two.
Yep.
Tonight, obviously, I have a lot more on the line because the Lions are playing the Rams, and my wife is playing the Cowboys. The Packers and the Cowboys. Otherwise, tomorrow night will be what it is. So,
Yeah, pretty much. Well,
and both
it's
will be played indoors too, by the way.
yeah, so you won't have to worry about anything. So, and I hear Detroit's going through it right now, but again, right, they're playing indoors, so it
Yeah,
shouldn't be an issue unless it's for people getting to the game. But they'll find a way to get to the game.
I'm sure they
Those are
will.
locals that have been there for ages. They know how to.
Well, it's
When,
only going
once
to
you,
be eight. It'll be 8 o'clock tonight. They'll have all day to figure it out. Not really worry about that. They'll have all day to figure it out. It doesn't matter.
yeah, well, you're from up there, so when you're born and raised in it, you kind of know how to drive in it.
You do, but that doesn't mean that everybody else does it well either. It's like South Florida.
Yeah,
You have the nice weather. Doesn't mean some of these people are going to run the red light. You have a fender better. I mean, you would. And by the way, our colleague George Eicher will be covering it for us tonight as well. He'll be at the game tonight over at Ford
sweet.
Field.
All right. Yeah, definitely looking forward to commentary from him. Well, that's all we have time for. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and please get on TikTok and engage. Your thoughts about this conversation. Catch us on DBTV, NGBN TV, Sideline Sports, South Florida Tribune. We're on Facebook, X. We're on Instagram. We're also on LinkedIn as well. So for the Motor City Madmouth, I am Denzel the Sniper, and we will see you later.